So here we have Mr. Dimairho, the CEO of Order Group and the founder, right? Yes.
Co-founder.
Co-founder.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to do an interview, right, about Mr. Dimairho. This is an exclusive interview.
Yeah.
Okay. So to start with, who or what inspires you? Like, what gives you the drive to do what you do?
Okay, what gives me the drive to thanks, Munashe. It's a pleasure to host you at my office, and it's a pleasure to be getting interviewed for this project that you're doing.
Thank you.
I grew up in a family with humble beginnings, and I think one of the things that my parents did for me was they tried their best and took us through school and did the best they could for us. And you know, we lacked a lot of things. We didn't have a lot of things that many people have these days, and I think we were surviving. We survived nonetheless. And you know, my parents would always say that, you know, they would hold up. My mother would hold up these three fingers and say, the little finger is me. The middle finger here is you, and that should be your children.
Oh.
So they were basically saying that I'm here, you should do better than me, and your children should do better than you.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a pretty creative one.
So that's the concept. So I always wanted to work hard from when I was young, and I told myself that, look, one day I'm going to be. At that time, the motivation was to get rich because I knew what being poor was, right? And I didn't want to be poor for the rest of my life. So that was what drove me. But I think over the years, I've learned that, you know, it's not about making money, but solving people's problems. And in fact, solving people's problems is more fulfilling, because when you solve people's problems, you know, riches naturally come with it. People will be more than happy to give you money for solving their problems.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, so how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
In 3 words, I am a go-getter. I don't know if we can say that's one word. I'm a go-getter. I would like to think that I'm a visionary. I like, you know, doing things that have never been done before, or challenging, taking on challenges which others think are unrealistic. And another key attribute that I have is persistence, you know, because for you to be successful in anything, you have to persevere. It's going to be a long journey, and it's going to be a difficult one. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot of things. You're going to have to, you know, take a lot of risk, and you're going to have to, you know, keep your eyes focused, you know, regardless of the obstacles that come your way.
Okay, I've heard you mention that you have to take a lot of risk, right? As a young entrepreneur, what's the biggest risk you have taken so far?
I think the biggest risk I've taken, so one thing about risk is that, okay, for you to be an entrepreneur and to succeed, there is an element of risk that's in there, but you have to take risks that are calculated. So for example, I did not finish my high school. I dropped out after my O-levels. Many people thought I was crazy, even my classmates, but if you talk to all of my classmates today, they will, you know, some of them are like, wow, you're now in a situation and position that we'd all have loved to be in. And, you know, we had no idea this is how things would end up when you were telling us, but, you know, I dropped out with a plan to start studying chartered accounting, which I did. And, you know, I told my parents that when I'm a chartered accountant, who's going to ask me if I have an A-level certificate? And the answer was no. So that's what, you know, I think that was one of the risks I took there, you know. And another risk I can say I took is, you know, getting into business. You know, it was another risk, because as I was studying, I also decided to get into business. And, you know, that's where, you know, the idea of, you know, stock market automation came to my mind. And for many years I was paying to work. So other people go to work to get paid, but I was paying to work.
You were paid to work.
Yeah, I was taking money out of my pocket to invest in my venture. And But one thing, it's only a couple of, weeks ago that I came across this quote which says, some people are not prepared to sacrifice 3 or 4 years of their life to build their dreams, but are happy to sacrifice 40 years of their life working for someone and then struggle after those 40 years to earn a living when they retire.
Oh, that's an interesting one.
So I'd say, starting a business or taking a risk, because when you start, the odds are against you, 90% chances that you fail. So that's a big risk to take. But, it's all worth it. And I always told myself, if I have to fail 9 times to win the 10th time, then so be it.
Yeah, as long as you win.
Yeah.
So how do you feel when you notice that you are doing a lot better than so many people who are older than you? Considering that you didn't go to high school and then you started doing your own thing, but there are people who were older than you when you were Form 4, but then you are doing a lot better than them because they're probably unemployed or still in university or something like that. Yeah.
So most people my age or older, they're done with university now. But one thing for sure is that my fellow classmates, by the time they got out of university, and I think I only got my chartered accountancy qualification and my bachelor's degree, up there on the wall. I only got them last year, September and December respectively. Okay. So basically everything I've done it without school. But I measured myself to say, by the time I then got my certificates and they got theirs for their honors degrees, I had 8 years of business experience. I had made, so much money when, I don't have to work for several years, right? And I have the experience that they don't. I have networks and contacts from all over the world which they don't have. And it's what I've managed to acquire over that 8-year period. Now, what they've acquired over that 8-year period, their A-level, their degree, they maybe have got a job, an entry-level job somewhere, and maybe a few contacts here and there. But I think it's nothing compared to what I got. But one thing that, many people, it's actually humbling because I don't think I'm special. What I did, anybody else can do it if they choose to do it.
It's a decision.
Yeah, it's a decision. And, they always say life is made up of the small decisions that you make every day. And contrary to, as we were discussing, what Hollywood says, there's nothing like fate in life. The outcome of life is the choices that you make. And if you want something, you go for it and you get it. Right? It's wishful thinking, wanting something and wishing that it's going to come, and hoping it's going to come somewhere through some miracle. Right? If you want something, then you have to go out and get it.
You have to work for it. Nothing's for free.
Nothing's for free.
Okay, so I heard you mention that you decided not to go to high school. How did your loved ones or your close ones feel or say about it?
I think, they actually encouraged me, and I also, whenever you make a decision and you choose a certain alternative, you have to be able to stand for it and justify it. Part of being a business person is being a salesman.
Yeah.
If you've got a particular idea, then you've got to sell your idea and convince people that it makes sense and it works. So I think, to a great extent, I managed to sell that idea to my close family and my loved ones. And I mean, they got it, and they understood me. And I think I also had a history of being passionate about business in high school. I ran the junior achievement at our school, the junior achievement company at our school, and I used to trade in stocks and shares, and I was always interested about business, reading about business books, and whilst others are playing at break time, I'll be reading newspapers.
Oh.
So there was a bit of that history which built up to that decision, and by the time I made it, there was already a bit of momentum that had been created.
Okay, so do you have a role model?
I have many of them.
It's a bunch.
Yeah, I have many of them. various things I admire about different people, and it's always important to look up to a role model and someone that motivates you to achieve greater things, someone that motivates you to do better.
Okay. What do you think is the prime concept one is supposed to understand before they can get into business or invest?
Right, so I think you first have to know yourself, in the sense that you yourself have to have a clear picture about what you're passionate about, what you want to achieve in life, and what your vision is, your short-term plans, your medium-term plans, your long-term plans and goals. So that's something that you have to be very clear about, because it's important when you start on your journey. For me, what I'll say is that, when your bank account is empty and your pockets are dry and you've got some debts or whatever, and things are not working out the way they should, your passion is what keeps you going.
Yeah,
right?
good.
And so, firstly, you have to know yourself and understand what you love, what you're prepared to work for without getting paid, right? And then you focus on your energy on doing what you love, because when you do what you love, you don't have to work a single day in your life.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I see myself, continuing to grow, my various businesses and, that I'm involved in, and, I hope to break ground. I'm working on a couple of new ideas and concepts, in Zimbabwe and abroad, and I'm just hoping that, and I'm working towards it, with the view that, that will eventually, I'll eventually break new ground and, take whatever industry I get into to a higher level from where it was.
To where people didn't think it's possible.
Exactly.
Okay. What advice would you give to somebody who wants to follow your footsteps? Like a teenager who wants to drop out of school so that they don't go to high school and do exactly what you did?
So I think, what advice I'll give them is, that idea to say, I think when you're a teenager, the most difficult thing is figuring yourself out. And a lot of people, take time, excuse me.
That's fine.
They don't really sit down and think about figuring themselves out. And that's the most important thing, because I think, like you quite rightly said, the time between your high school and university is what shapes your future.
Yeah, true.
Right. And unless you do something about it in that space of time, people are going to, you're going to get caught up in the usual euphoria, and you have to do what you have to then do what everybody else wants you to do.
You get stuck up in
Exactly, stuck up. So once you find yourself, read widely and a lot, right? So read. The average person reads less than one book a year.
Cool.
So if you want to be extraordinary, then start reading 4, 5, 6 books a year. Personally, I read 15 to 18 books a year.
Okay, talking about books, which one is your favorite book?
Yes, there are many books that I enjoy reading. The very first one that inspired me was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Okay.
Another very good book is Goals by Brian Tracy. And then there's another book by Brian Tracy called $1 Million Habits. And then there's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Steve Covey. And then there's another book that was written by Jay Welch called Winning. And I've also read another good book by Donald Trump called Never Give Up.
Okay.
Yeah. So, those are some of the books that I would recommend. One of the best books I've read is The Greatest Salesman in the World. In fact, that's the big, I would say that's my favorite book. It's a short book, but straight to the point, and it's very, very deep. It has a very, very deep message that's packed in a very short book.
Okay. So talking about so many books that you read, I don't want to think you spend the whole day reading. So how do you normally spend your free time?
So one of the things that I do is that my free time, one thing that I told myself is I'll always spend my free time on something that builds me.
Okay.
Alright, so unlike many youths and young people who have watched every series there is, I mean, you can meet some people who, if you ask them about any series, they can tell you about it, right? But
movie director.
yeah, so there are people that are movie directors. So I'm not so sure if that helps, and that's what a lot of people get caught up in. And even when I'm watching TV, I try and watch programs that I learned something from, like Dragon's Den, Undercover Boss. I sometimes, one of the series I enjoy is Suits, because I can relate to it in business and actually learn from it, right? And there's this other series I was watching called Gold Rush, about gold mining. So I now know how to mine alluvial gold.
Okay.
Right? So I always try spending my free time learning something.
So how do you normally spend your free time?
Okay, so to top up on all those things that I've talked about, one of the things that I've realized is that the human body can do with 6 to 8 hours of sleep a day. I mean, it's nice to sleep more than 8 hours a day, but really you don't need to sleep more than 8 hours a day. So I prefer waking up very early and reading, and I just need to spend 30 minutes to 1 hour reading a day. So I always wake up, I read my Bible, and we've got a study lesson from church, and I read that, and then try and read a book.
Okay.
Right. So I try and feed my mind with new information and learn new things before I start my day. And by the time I'm here, by the time I get to the office, I've already fed my mind and learned something new. And the rest of the day becomes a learning experience. And in my free time, leisure is important in recreation. So, but I always try and do recreation that's constructive. Like playing sport, whilst I'm enjoying it, I'm also exercising.
Yeah,
right?
true.
And, if I'm watching a TV program, 70% chances that I'm watching something that's going to build me. I also enjoy reading in my spare time. And one thing that I would also recommend to people is to learn how to read fast. Because, I think, Bill Clinton, when he was the president of the United States, he used to read a book a day.
A day?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he was saying, look, this is the president of the United States. And this, I can just imagine the responsibility a president has, work-wise, family-wise, social-wise. You're worrying about global issues, you're traveling, 30% of the time, and you also need your own social time. So, it was quite very interesting that, look, if Bill Clinton could read a book a day, what more about me? I can learn to get to that level of efficiency.
Yeah, that's true. So, I understand you venture into stock-related business, specifically Chengetedza Depository Company.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with this idea, or you just stumbled into it?
Yeah, so I think in most of the times, ideas always come disguised as a problem, right?
Okay.
And the problems that we face in our daily lives, those are the opportunities. So that's the simple way of putting it. How the idea came into my mind, the Chengetedza, what then led to one and the next thing till we now have Chengetedza Depository Company, was a problem I faced. I used to buy and sell stocks when I was 15 years old.
15.
Yeah, I realized that, look, we've got a manual market, and you look at New York, South Africa, and other countries, and they're all developed in India
Automatic.
stuff. So why can't we have the same thing in Zimbabwe? That's how it all started. So yeah, I'll say, a lot of these ideas, they're right under our nose. It's just that we need to take time to think through them and actually develop them. Instead of complaining about our problems, we should be finding solutions to our problems.
Oh, so to sum it up, you say the source of the money is the problem.
Exactly.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, the source of the money is the problem. Yeah, that's a very good.
Okay, I understand you also have a collection of prestigious awards that were given to you.
Mm-hmm.
Which one of them is your best?
Look, I've got a number of them. I don't know, but one of the ones that I value a lot is the Junior Chamber International Creative Young Entrepreneur of the Year for Zimbabwe, which I got in 2014. And I also, another good one is the Global Student Entrepreneurs Award, where I went to represent Zimbabwe, the Global Student Entrepreneurs Award, Global Finals in Washington in the US. So
That's big.
it was basically an award for people that were studying and started businesses as well. And actually when I was there, I figured that the same struggles we face here are the same struggles someone in America, in Mexico, in India, in Nepal, in Ireland, it's the same. We all face the same problems, right? So that was a very nice award that I got, which I highly appreciate, and yeah.
Okay, so do you think Zimbabwe as a community is moving in the right direction when it comes to providing platforms that promote youth innovation?
Yeah, I think it is. We're heading in the right direction, and I think people are now becoming aware of it. One of the things when I was at the Global Student Entrepreneurs Award it was very, very competitive, and you're competing with, almost 50 other contestants from around the world, even from Russia, right? So when you get there and you actually see that, I think the guy that eventually won, his name is Steiner from the Netherlands. He invented this technology for keeping birds away from airports. So they did some research and development and saw that birds, when they see infrared rays, it's as good as a scarecrow for birds.
Oh.
So we were up against people that have invented things, right? And whilst we have our problems in Zimbabwe, the world is not stopping and they don't care. The Chinese are not going to stop innovating. The Americans, the Europeans, the Australians, the South Americans, they're not going to stop innovating just because we have problems in Zimbabwe, right? Look at what happened in Dubai. It transformed from a desert to something, to a place where everybody wants to be.
From dust to riches.
Exactly, yeah, dust to riches, exactly. So I think with that, people have woken up to that fact, and a lot of these incubation hubs are starting, and even the government is now focusing on youth empowerment strategies. There, there's an ICT innovation fund that's there, where I think they're now starting to want to encourage people to innovate. Although the ease of doing business still has a long way to get dealt. That issue still needs to be dealt with, but I think that dialogue is happening. 10 years ago, you wouldn't even get, or 10 or 15 years ago, you wouldn't even get within a meter of a minister, right? There were these untouchable people, but with social media and everything, it's very easily, a minister is easily accessible if you need to get their attention, right? So I think you got B2C co-working space. There used to be Hypercube Hub, but they closed. And there's a whole bunch of hubs around that are springing up and trying to create an environment and community for people to, create ideas and thrive.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
So, what's the most activity that you've done so far in your life? Like, I know you've done so many activities, but one that really got your adrenaline rushing?
Okay, it depends what context that is, but from a business perspective, it's been, being part of a national project where we actually broke new ground and set pace for development in the capital markets.
Okay.
You know, that automation project we implemented in Chingetedza is something that I was very passionate about, and in some stages, you know, would work till midnight, but by 7 a.m. I would be back in the office. It would work through the day. And
so, to sum up the interview, is there anything you would like to say out to the world, even if it's a random thought?
Right, so I'd say wake up a little earlier, read something, work a little harder during the day, and finish a bit later than everybody else. You know, and invest your leisure time and anything that you do into something that's going to make you a better person. You know, the founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, once said that what you do after everybody has stopped working is what sets you apart and different. If you want to be different from everybody else, then you've got to do things differently.
Okay.
You can't do what everybody else is doing and expect different results. At the end of the day, life is made up of the small things and decisions you make on a daily basis, you know, on an hourly basis, on a minute basis. So everything you're doing and every decision you're making is going to determine who you become.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we read, I always like to use this. A friend of mine, Michael Chiduku, you know, in one of his talks, he said, everything that we do starts in the mind. You know, how you think determines how you feel, and how you feel determines how you act, and how you act determines what you get, and then what you get determines your lifestyle.
Okay.
So basically, it's just a 5-step process which illustrates that whatever we think will translate into actions, and whatever actions we take will translate into our lifestyle. So that's
okay,
what I would want to tell the world.
Oh, so Mr. Dimairho, thank you for the exclusive interview. I think we've come to the end of it.
Yeah, thanks, Munashe.
Thank you.